Cool. We're up.
All right, cool. Welcome. Do you want to go and start the podcast?
Yeah, start it.
Get rolling.
What is up, guys? And welcome back to the Technical Foul Podcast. As always, or almost always, you're joined by the three of us. I'm Jack Anderson. To my right is JP Pusilowski, the captain of the Slugs. And to the left is Sanders Oakley, our esteemed editor and behind-the-scenes guy, which we greatly appreciate all the work he does there. How are we doing today, boys?
Fantastic. I wanted to do a little bit of MLB stuff today, and that didn't happen. But shout out the Padres. They took the lead in the West. They beat the Dodgers last night after getting swept last weekend. So they play again tonight to push the lead out to 2, hopefully. So it's been a fun weekend of baseball after a very frustrating last weekend where we lost all 3 games to the Dodgers.
I'm happy that you can have some joy in the MLB. It's
Yeah.
all good.
I haven't looked at the Braves recently, but I assume it's much of the same.
We're about to get swept, but, we're securing that better draft pick.
Yeah, for sure.
Genius.
What else has happened? I have a fantasy draft tonight that I'm only going to be able to do like half of because I have a meeting for Mississippi State Athletics that I have to go to.
Is this the ex-seniors draft?
Yes, it's the seniors. Former seniors, I guess, yeah.
But is this now, are they 2 years removed now?
Yeah.
Because it was your...
It's
It was your-
the high school, like the freshman class of 2020.
Yes.
Just say you could say college friends.
Yeah. It's literally called seniors, though, or something. I don't remember what the league is called.
That may need to get changed.
Yeah.
I think you're holding on to something a little bit
Yeah.
too tightly.
I don't think any of us are holding on to it.
Yeah, you all have all moved on. How's it going, JP?
It's going good. It is going good. I'm ready for the week to start. I'm ready for Saturday. Saturday's going to be big. A lot of college football. A big fantasy draft that night. Yeah, I'm just ready for football to start so we can actually talk about a bunch of football, which we already got one game that has occurred that we're going to talk about here in just a second.
It was a good little taste of college football, but we didn't get a full slate, so that hurts a little bit. So I guess you have 3 drafts next weekend then?
I have 4 drafts next weekend.
Good luck.
One Saturday, one Sunday, one Monday, and then I have one on Friday.
Do we have drafts?
We're going to have 2.
Okay, cool.
Well, maybe just one. Are you?
I'm not in.
Then you'll just have one. I'll have 2.
Okay, cool. That's
So-
exciting. I'm ready for that. Ready for that draft.
It'll be fun. JP kind of already mentioned Kansas State versus Iowa State. We'll talk about that game today. Among a couple other things, JP will run through some fantasy draft rankings, as well as looking forward to the next QB class that'll be draftable next year, like the guys that are going to be the top of the draft next year, so the 2026 NFL draft.
Oh, it's not just the top of the class; it's the whole class.
Well, I think it's all the guys that have potential to be the top of the class. I mean, not everyone can be the top of the class.
Yeah. Blake Shapen, breaking news. Blake Shapen has
Well,
potential
he's
to
a
be top
future.
of the
He's a
class.
future star of college football.
Yeah.
So that means a lot there. I'm like thinking of this as like our calm before the storm
I agree.
podcast. Are we going next Tuesday? We will have a pod, right? We'll be up to 3 a week next week.
Yeah.
So we'll just to go ahead and lay that out for y'all. We're working on Sunday, Thursdays right now, so we'll be back Thursday for a week 1 preview of college football. Then the following Sunday, so next Sunday, it'll be a week 1 recap of college football, which will be imperfect because it's the 1 week where there's a couple games on Sunday and Monday, but nothing we can do about it. We'll touch on those on top of the show Tuesday, which will be our NFL big preview show where we do playoff picture. We do our playoff brackets. We pick our Super Bowl winner. We'll pick our MVP, stuff like that. Basically what we just did for college on Thursday, we're going to do that for the NFL because that season will start Thursday. And so then the Thursday show will be a joint college and NFL preview for that week. And that'll kind of become our schedule, at least throughout the fall and throughout football season. And we're really excited for that. But that's not the topic today. Do you want to hit on any of that before we move on and get to the show?
Just that. Those are the 3 big shows, and then there'll just be content we're also putting out.
Sure.
All throughout the week and weekend. A lot of things to look forward to. Top 25 breakdowns each week.
Yep.
I'll give my best bets of the weekend every Thursday, so tune in for that. I will be doing film breakdowns throughout the entire season, so if you've watched any of those for the preseason guys, thank you, and I will be doing that throughout the entirety of the NFL season. and I'll try to sneak in college football as well when I can.
Sure.
College football is harder to do because it's really hard to find all 22 footage for it. So
Sure.
it's harder to do an actual film breakdown. But for the NFL, I'll be doing it. Especially, I already committed to myself at least. Anytime there's a game-winning drive in the NFL, I'm going to break down the entire game-winning drive. I'm going to go ahead and make that a thing. And then I'll do other stuff as well. I can't wait to get into that.
So you're hoping for not close games?
No,
not
I
all
would
at
love
once.
close games because those are, in my opinion, those are the most fun to
You
break
just don't.
down.
You just don't want like 6 in a weekend that like takes up your.
Oh,
entire-
I don't care. I
he'll
think I could knock
lock
it out.
in. I'm very excited doing that. I think, in my opinion, you're the biggest X's and O's guy on the podcast, so I feel like I can learn from those.
I think you can
hope
take out
fans
the in
can.
my opinion and just say JP
Well, I
is
didn't
the
wanna-
biggest X's and O's.
I didn't
guy.
want to speak for you.
No, I
So,
agree. I
I-
agree.
I
Who do
wasn't-
you think is the biggest X and O's guy?
Yeah, I
Am I-
think I'm gonna have to vote JP on
Okay.
that one. Angleball maybe not, but football I think we can give it to him.
Who is the biggest angle ball X's and O guy?
I think
Probably
it's
Jack.
me.
I think it's
Okay.
Jack.
You're right there. I mean, Sanders is pretty high up there for Angleball as well. We're probably 3 of the top 5 X's and O's wise.
Yeah.
I got a lot of Angleball on my belt though. I didn't want to speak for you.
I appreciate
so
that, but,
that's why I put the I think. But I'll scratch that out. JP is the X's and O's football guy of the podcast, so I can learn stuff from that. I hope y'all can as well. I look forward to those every week.
We're also, I mean, me and Jack have talked about trying to start playing some College Football 26 and posting
Dude,
that.
I'm still tilted about last night's game.
We had the reason we want to do it is because last night we played for like 3 hours, me and him, and the way we do it is we do like a rebuild. I play defense, he plays offense, and then we both recruit, and it's super fun, and the vibes are really fun. But last night there was so much funny stuff that was happening that like I think would be fun to put in a YouTube video. We were 8 and 3, 8 and
No,
7.
we weren't 8-3 at the time because
We were playing LSU as Western Kentucky. That's where we started our career. Is year 1 Western Kentucky. We've landed like 2 or 3 4 stars. So recruiting is going well.
Miracle.
We're playing LSU like second to last game of the season. I'm like, if we win this game, we might get ranked. Like, you know, that would be cool. We're doing well. Jack goes down, takes the lead. 2 minutes left. LSU turns around and scores. Jack gets the ball back, and as he's got the ball, he's got it on like R10, and he goes
20.
LSU 20.
R20.
Jack goes LSU. He's literally sitting there snapping LSU cheeks. We're better. Gets stripped. Gets picked up and returned for a touchdown. I mean,
My left tackle did not
We-
pick up his
yeah,
man.
it
but
was as he was snapping the ball. Jack goes LSU's cheeks. We're better. We got this, and just gets absolutely owned.
I stand by my point though, because Maverick McIver threw for 400 yards in Death Valley
It was
with Western Kentucky against LSU.
Yeah.
Like we were shredding them. It just didn't end up mattering, sadly. But yeah,
I ended up holding him to like 28 points. Like, I'll take that, holding the LSU offense 28 points. It was just a really unfortunate. We just couldn't get the stop. I needed to get a stop late in the game, and they just drove down the field easily.
it's all good. Are we gonna do this in terms of order? Iowa State, Kansas State game first, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
that's
think
what
where we
I
should start.
figured. But I realized we hadn't necessarily talked about it. Dude, you went to the Dublin game, Sven? Sorry, chat.
No way.
I
That's-
need confirmation on that. That's pretty cool.
I
if
mean,
so.
that's what it sounds like. He said he just got back from Dublin.
But did he go to the game? Is what
That's
I'm
fair,
asking.
that's fair.
Or was he just in Dublin while the game was going
It
on?
Yeah,
was
me-
raining too.
Me and Jack were
Yes.
talking about this before we start the segment. About how they kept showing like all the pubs where like, you know, fans were, and I was like, it'd be crazy if you were a fan who just went over there to go to the pub and then came home. But then Jack pointed out that I'm sure a lot of fans like made a whole week or like 2-week trip out of it. You go
yeah,
to Europe.
it's
That didn't occur to me. In my brain, I was like, these fans flew over Thursday, they hung out Friday, hung out in the pub on Saturday to watch the game, and then flew home today.
no. My friend, one of my best friends, who goes to Georgia Tech, graduated from Georgia Tech, went to the game last year,
Sure.
and he and his now fiance, congrats to him. He's not watching because he's only liked 2 TikToks ever. He's the guy who just doesn't support his friends' content, but
Insane.
he went last year and he made a week-long trip out of it with his fiance in Ireland. They spent the whole week in Ireland,
Yeah,
and then
that's
he
the
went
way
to the
to do it.
game. And that was, I mean, for them, it was really cool because Georgia Tech they were a double-digit underdog in that game, and there was no expectations for them to win it, and to win it on a game-winning field goal. He said it was probably one of the best trips he's ever done.
That's awesome.
That's very fair.
So I'm sure other people have done that before. Sven, I'd love to see why you were doing it. Looks like you're trying to give your explanation right now in the chat, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a friend in Dublin, so no hotel fee. It's a 2-hour flight, so like That's for me. That's like my drive home that I can make on a weekend, like super easy.
That's not bad at all.
That's awesome.
If I was in those conditions, I would have gone as well.
100%.
But I'm
I would
happy you got to do that.
Sven, how was it? Like it sounded loud on TV. It looked full on TV. Like it looked like a really cool environment. I was kind of curious, would they pack out a stadium? But it looked like they did. It looked very full. It sounded loud, so it was awesome. Would love to hear what you thought. Do we want to start the actual
Yes, we
game
can.
review? Cool.
The game that kicked off the 2025 college football season was a banger, both in how it turned out and also it being two ranked teams week 0. You don't often get that. Kansas State versus Iowa State. Iowa State pulled out a 3-point win over in Ireland. It was a rainy game. It was a gross game. Ball control was an issue. Multiple fumbles on both sides. Defense was very stout, especially in the front sevens, in my opinion. Run defense on both sides were very strong, especially Kansas State's. Iowa State couldn't run the ball until the fourth quarter. And then Carson Hansen kind of started. He was running hard all game, but after kind of getting a rest in the third quarter, came back and tore it up in the fourth quarter. Rocco Becht was pretty good. I thought Avery Johnson played pretty well. But overall, it was a good intro to the college football season. Thoughts on the game, boys?
I thought the game was I felt like the game was clear how it was going to go from the first drive. Iowa State comes out with Rocco Becht, who was a very good quarterback last year, and runs the ball 4 straight plays, throws an incompletion. They punt. Kansas State muffs it, and Iowa State picks it back up. It was just like, you were like, oh, it's going to be one of those games. It's going to be hard to work through the air because of the conditions, and it's going to be hard to, the little details are going to be very important because muffing a punt in dry weather is not easy, but a fundamental, but in the wet weather, it gets so much more complicated. And so there was a lot of that, but it was an awesome game. I was a little sad, all the people who were like, of course we get a bum Big 12, ugly game to start the season. I was like, I personally loved it. I do not fault the teams. I don't think any of the teams I hold them or view them as worse because turnovers were an issue because it was very wet and it was the first game of the season. Sure, there's some rust to knock off. So I was a little sad to see everyone on Twitter immediately jumping on the Big 12 and saying that if the SEC was in this game, it'd be so much better. And I'm like, do you remember when Georgia played Ole Miss in the bad weather? Weather can screw you up. It can change how you play the game. It can make the fundamentals not fundamental. So I was a little sad to see fans jump on the Big 12 because I thought it was a fantastic game between two very good teams. And I really liked JP watching Rocco Becht I didn't really watch him much last year. I knew Iowa State was good. I knew they had a good record. I knew they were putting up good stats, but I didn't watch Rocco Becht. And getting to watch him yesterday, it was pretty enjoyable to watch him. And also not Avery Williams, but Avery Johnson, because I've made that mistake a couple times now, jokingly. Also very good. There were just a couple times the passing offense wasn't great for most of the game, but a couple times it clicked and it was that was really pretty to watch.
Well, they got rolling as soon as it stopped pouring.
Yeah.
The second half, both the quarterbacks started hitting some big throws. I think the rain had to do it, but I think they schemed up some big throws. People got open downfield. Jace Brown especially really popped for me from Kansas State. I know you tossed him out in the preview, but he's very, very quick, runs great routes, is a huge weapon for Kansas State.
He just looks like a receiver too.
Yeah, he really does. He looks the part. He plays the part. He was a huge piece. Iowa State-wise, it reminds me of – so they had their 2 really good wide receivers last year, but it seems like they're kind of back to a more stereotypical Iowa State offense in terms of really relying on the tight ends in the passing game, targeting them a ton over the middle, just letting them win with their big frames. So, I feel like last year's Iowa State offense was a little more out of the norm, and this seemed more kind of physical. Yeah, back to getting the tight ends involved in the passing. Not that they weren't involved last year, but they had 2 wide receivers go in the second round. That's not going to be the norm for Iowa State at all. So, thoughts, JP? We've not gotten yours yet.
Yeah. No, it was fun. It was. Like you said, Sanders. I completely agree. If that was, even if it was South Carolina and Florida for whatever reason, and it was 2 dynamic quarterbacks on Lenora Sellers and DJ Lagway, with how much it was raining, it would not have mattered. It would have been a slugfest. It would have been on the ground and pound, just like how Iowa State and Kansas State had to play.
There would have been a half a dozen fumbles, maybe not all recovered by the defense, but
Absolutely.
the ball would have been on the ground.
There were 4 fumbles lost in this game, so a ton there. I thought the game was lost for Kansas State basically right off the bat with muffing the punt, and then Dylan Edwards is hurt immediately. And
It's a
in
big loss.
game where, as we saw as the game can progress, that like if you can get one-on-one with one guy and beat him, you will win. When you lose your guy who is excellent at that, Dylan Edwards, I think it made Kansas State immediately one-dimensional, which was we're going to target Jace Brown or we're going to run with Avery Johnson. Like that, I guess that's two-dimensional, but that were their only two weapons, and they were not going to find success on the ground, just handing it off to the tailback, and they didn't throughout that entire game. They really didn't. There was not really. Joe Jackson had 51 rushing yards, but nothing was dynamic on that front. That losing Dylan Edwards, I thought, costed Kansas State the game immediately. But for the game to like start out that way, I thought it was kind of a cinema first quarter of muffing the first punt, and then Iowa State's in there and they continue to run the ball, and then Rocco Beck throws a pitch and it hits his teammate in the helmet, and Kansas State recovers. Then there's 3 straight 3-and-outs, and then Iowa State comes out. It stops raining for a second, and Rocco Beck throws 3 straight passes, touchdown. At that point, I thought it was over in my mind. And this is a guy who picked Kansas State. I've picked Kansas State to win the Big 12 as well. I was like, okay, well, we're in a spot where it's either going to have to be Avery Johnson the entire game, and we have never seen that really. He's never really taken over a game entirely, and I didn't expect it to happen again there. What disappointed me was I didn't see, even weather aside, like I didn't see a step up from Avery Williams or Avery Johnson.
So
So
No,
you got him.
no.
You got him tripped up now.
I'm not going to make the mistake again. We can put that behind
Yeah.
us. I'm not going to do that to y'all anymore.
I expected him to be more disciplined. I expected him to value the football a little bit more. I expected him to make a few bigger plays. The biggest thing for him last year, they lost a game because he had an intentional grounding in his own end zone for a safety. He had an intentional grounding in this game that cost them a ton of field position. The fourth quarter was electric, though. They scored 24 points in the fourth quarter after scoring 21 the entire game. So that was really fun to see.
We got our first bad beat betting-wise of the season because we thought the over cashed for like a split second, and then his forearm was down on the half-yard line.
Yep,
So
that was a rough one. And then, obviously, I bet Kansas State -3. That was my first bet of the year, and that one, of course, didn't hit. But I think Rocco Beck showed, even in a game where he completes only half of his passes, showed what I wanted to see out of him. I saw the step up from him immediately. It was just like, okay, he's going to consistently be good. He's leading his team. You lose your 2 receivers in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. It doesn't matter. We're going to go out there. We're going to beat the favorites to win the Big 12 on a neutral field, and we had a week less to prepare for this game. We're the doubted team, and then he led them to victory. He's still probably going to play another season after this, but I think what he showed in that game, he's like immediately already going to be on my big board for the next year's draft.
sure.
I because of his talent. The biggest thing for him right now is, and Josh Pate touched on this as a Cyclone fan, is like, I want to see, does he have another step? Because he's been consistently good, but at some point you're going to reach your potential and you can't improve anymore. And I think the only question there for Rocco is, has he reached that already? Is he already at the best he'll ever be? And I hope not, because the kid can play ball.
He definitely can. I feel like watching the game, the starkest contract to me between the 2 quarterbacks is I think Rocco Becht is very smart and intelligent QB, and sometimes talking about the intentional grounding, stuff like that, the game speeds up a little bit on Avery Johnson. He maybe scrambles when he shouldn't, something like that, which I know his legs are great. That's a real weapon for him. But that's just they're polar opposites in that regard. And then I tried to look up just now any news on Dylan Edwards, but it's college football. So he was seen in a boot in the Dublin airport today. Not great, but also they just put everyone in a boot. Like, he could have a stub toe and he's walking around in a boot, so you just don't really know.
We had a baseball player. I mean, it's college sports, so that's my comparison. We had a baseball player who one game of the weekend he was wearing a boot, and then he played the next day. It's just
You just don't really know.
No idea.
So I hope he gets back healthy. He's supposed to be a key piece of that offense. And people getting mad at him for not being hurt and just quitting that's so stupid. I've seen that narrative a lot on Twitter and stuff. Is that he just got upset he muffed the punt.
Yeah.
And walked off the field and decided he wasn't going to play anymore. That's ridiculous.
I was just going to point out real quick for the Kansas State thing, because as far as like impact goes, this is a big deal in my opinion that it was a conference matchup to start the season. However, it doesn't hurt Kansas State too much. We've talked about this before, but I want to reiterate, because Kansas State plays 10 conference games, this loss doesn't necessarily end up hurting them. So if they end up getting to 8 conference wins, the loss isn't going to hurt them in a tiebreaker. It actually, I guess, helped them situationally. So because they play that extra conference game, it's them and Arizona were the 2 that we found.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State might not, or potentially won't be punished if they have a good season from here on.
And I don't expect Arizona to be up there
No,
with
me
8
neither.
conference wins at 8-2. But it is the Big 12. I guess you never know.
Yeah, Kansas State, they can lose 2 conference games and will more than likely reach the Big 12 title game. In fact, there's routes where they could lose 3 conference games and still reach the Big 12 title game. That's a lot less likely, but 2 losses and they're still fine. And the thing is, going forward throughout the rest of the season, like Iowa State, realistically, outside of the Utah game, was their toughest game. They'll play at Utah late in the season, but other than that, they're probably going to be favored in almost every other game this season unless Baylor were to come on very early. And so Finn, I completely disagree. I think week 0 showed that it was week 0. The team wasn't ready. They lost their best player, one of their best weapons at least, immediately to start the game, and they didn't really have the game plan to counter that. And they lost by 3 points. This is not a... If that's like the point, then I think... Oh, you just... And that was another point I'm going to make. This is the point you just have now made in the chat. The turf was very sloppy. It was complete... It was a rock fight. It was a... The conditions were not something that Kansas State is going to play in the rest of the year. They play on a turf field at home, so they don't have to deal with these kind of sloppy conditions. I think they're still well in line to reach the Big 12 title game. If they're so bad,
Iowa State's also not
then
very
Iowa
good.
State is not good, and then what do we even know about the Big 12 going forward? So I have no worries about Kansas State in the rest of the season as my Big 12 title pick. I think they're going to continue to play on and play well this year. The only concern, I think, Dylan Edwards needs to be on the team for them to win the Big 12, and there's definitely some concern there going forward. But they lost. Someone has to lose in week 0. Someone has to lose in week 1, and I just think the panic is going to be too much. If you're panicking already about this game, I'm concerned about how you're going to feel after LSU Clemson.
Yeah.
How you're going to feel
I
after
mean, we already know Clemson fans will be calling for Dabo to be fired. So
Ohio State, Texas. You know, there's big games this coming. How are you going to feel about Notre Dame, Miami? Is one of those teams just going to go 6-6 if they lose that week 1 game? Let's not overreact, way too early on. I think Kansas State's going to be fine. The only thing that, for me is troubling is that if you look historically,
It's not good to lose the week 0 game.
the team that loses in Ireland averages 3 wins a season.
that was
But
Florida State.
Those teams are Florida State, which was completely, that was insane.
Unprecedented. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
very unprecedented.
And Northwestern.
Northwestern has lost there. They're, of course, terrible. And then I think it was Navy or it was Army. One of the armed forces lost against Notre Dame
Okay.
in that game. And, they historically have not been great at football either. So
Sure.
I think this is probably still the best team out of those teams that have lost. Of course, that's hindsight with Florida State there, but
So was Florida State a higher ranked team than Kansas State going
Yes,
into
Florida
the game?
State
Yeah.
was number 10, I believe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Cool. I'm not too worried about it either. If Kansas State only wins 3 games,
2, because Florida State won 2 last year.
2-10.
but if the average is 3,
the average. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something, I guess.
Good bet. Good bet.
Any final thoughts on the game? Do we want to move on to our next segment?
I think we can. Whoa. My bad, guys. I think we can move on.
Bet.
Do we want to go to JP's QB rankings?
Yeah, let's do that first.
Bet.
You're going to need to pull up this for later on, but you're going to need to go to ESPN, you're going to need to open your team page for the Keeper League, and then you're going to need to go to players and projections.
That's a thing.
Okay, I'm going to our Slugs Keeper League, like that
Yeah.
one. Bruh.
Dude, I didn't know Blake Shapen
Oh
looked
my
like that.
gosh.
Just go over fantasy.
There it is.
Hover over fantasy.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's not on there. I'm gonna have to get
Not last is fine then.
Sure. There we go. It's this one.
10-year rebuild. Brutal.
Yeah.
Go to players, projections.
Do I need to make it all?
No, you need to go to hover over players. You need to hover over projections and do that. And then you need to make it sortable. Top left, sortable. There you go.
Sortable, okay.
That's for later.
I
But
have
just
never used this part of the ESPN.
have that page open for later.
Am I going to need to share this or?
I think it'll be helpful too. So if you want to prep that,
Is that possible? If not, no biggie.
Yeah, if you can prep
It
that
is possible. I wonder about the legality.
And-
ESPN won't mind.
and take out like the ads and stuff, if you can kind of crop it.
I will do my best. We'll see what we can make happen. All right, take it away.
But for starters, we're going to talk about if you have do you have anything? Okay.
yeah, I
that's
have
fine.
every player.
Huge. For starters, I'm going to go ahead and give my first quarterback rankings for the 2026 NFL Draft this upcoming season. Quick disclaimer, I'm not going to include Arch Manning.
Yeah.
I do not expect him to declare for the draft at this moment. Although if you made me bet on it, I would bet that he would declare for the draft. And then I also do not have Dante Moore on this list because I do not expect Dante Moore
To start this season.
to declare for the draft.
Jack is trying to push the Dante Moore is not
I'm
starting.
trying to speak it into existence to hurt your fantasy team, Sanders. Continue, JP.
So no Dante Moore, no Arch Manning. So don't get angry with that. I want to first, do you have the PFF rankings?
No,
graphic.
I have them under each player.
I see. Okay, then
I
let's
made individual graphics for each player. I didn't make your full rankings.
heard. Then I'll just go ahead and go straight into mine immediately. My number one overall quarterback for the 2026 NFL Draft right now is Lenoris Sellers. I have an early first-round grade on him right now. Things I like, he's a dog. He's a true gamer. He's the fastest quarterback here in the draft, tied with essentially John Mateer. I'd say about the same speed, but he's faster than every other player here in the draft. He makes all the open throws. It's a big thing I love about him is he doesn't necessarily miss a guy when he's wide open. His big thing is, and Jack knows this watching the South Carolina A&M game last year, he just beats guys when scrambling. He's really hard to tackle because of his speed, but the jump cuts, the hesitations, even when he scrambles out and he gets into a spot where he's one-on-one with the defensive end, he can hit you with a little pump fake and then blow by you to the right. He's an excellent quarterback. He's been compared to Cam Newton. I think that's a little bit too much at this moment in time. Now, if he were to lead South Carolina to any kind of success that Cam Newton did this season, then I think maybe that's a potential argument. But he's not the athletic prowess, at least. He's not as big, strong as Cam Newton was. He's not going to run people over. He's going to run around people. And so I don't think that's a fair compliment of him, although it's probably flattering to him, I'd assume.
I mean,
To
I'd
be
love to be
compared
compared to him.
To Cam Newton, one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. The biggest thing I want to see from him this season is I just want to see a little bit of development from the passing game. I don't think he's quite there to be an NFL quarterback on a baseline. I think he's unbelievably talented, but he has not hit that ceiling yet to where he is like Josh Allen is right now. That's the comparison right now, I think, for Lenoris is like I think he's just a little bit too raw. I think he would immediately, if you put him into the an NFL starter right now, I don't think he's a guarantee to be a day one star. In fact, I would expect him to be bad his rookie season. I think he needs to develop a ton there as a passer to be in the NFL, which he has the chance to do that in college this season. playing against NFL caliber guys pretty much every single week in the SEC. And I also want to see him in a pro system right now. I have concern there because they run a college system at South Carolina naturally because they are a college football team. And so I want to see him under center. I need to see him, manage the game from under center, to manage the game from the shotgun as well, to be able to manage the game when you're put in spots where the communication between you and your offensive coordinator goes out. Can you call a play yourself? Can you diagnose the defense and find their weak spot? Can you adjust the play? He's not a guy that's known to audible a ton right now. But what are you guys' thoughts on LaNorris? Am I too high on LaNorris?
I think you're taking the upside, which is
Correct.
fair because I feel like with a guy like Cade Klubnik, who is, I'll spoil it, is the PFF. He's first in the PFF big board. I feel like he's kind of already at his ceiling because he's been in college so long. He's not so long. I mean, he's a senior, but he's been starting for so long. We've seen him, and he's kind of, I feel like, been the same guy for the majority of that career, at least physical attributes wise. I mean, he's definitely developed mentally and, become more effective and more efficient as a passer. But I think LaNorris has just such raw physical tools that you take those upsides and combine those with the success he had last year, and you say, well, that's what he did when he was a redshirt freshman, right? Like, imagine what we could do with, put him in an NFL weight room, put him watching film 8 hours a day to where, and that's the thing you have to think about is when you get to the NFL, football is actually your job. You don't have to pretend that you go to class. Like, you can actually just 6 days a week, game on Sunday. Like, it's actually your job. It's just the difference is insane. And so if you put LaNorris Sellers in that kind of situation, how can you develop him? How much bigger can he turn into Cam Newton physically? Like, you put him in an NFL weight room. Does he get that much bigger? Because he's already 6'3", 240. Like, he's not small. I think he's the biggest guy on your list, if I'm not mistaken. At least, like, trunkiest.
From a weight?
Yeah, he's definitely the heaviest. He's not the tallest. I think that goes to Nico or
Drew Aller.
Drew Aller.
Is Taylon Green not the tallest?
Yeah, Green is 6'6". So, but yeah,
I mean, he's in a bit of a different tier than these guys.
yeah.
It's like I don't love LaNorris Sellers being your QB1, but when I think about it, I don't really know if I love any of these guys to be like, if you told me any of these guys was your QB1 going into this year, I'd be like, really? Like that guy? Because they're all really good, but none of them are great, and they all have concerns, so I don't hate it from that standpoint, if that makes sense. They're just all pretty clumped together. It's like they all should be QB2 right now.
Yeah.
And then like earn QB1. So buying into the upside, I agree with it. And also I've seen a lot recently that people are trying to be like, why is North Sellers, like why is he being mocked first overall pick? He's just Anthony Richardson again. Do you have anything against those claims?
No, because I don't think Anthony Richardson is actually another guy on this list because LaNorris is going to have 2 seasons of starting at quarterback. Taylon Green has a ton of starts at quarterback, but I think Taylon Green is the Anthony Richardson just from a raw athleticism standpoint. LaNorris, I think, is he's not raw athletically. He's getting control of his body.
Sure.
He is, and he shows that when he runs specifically. He knows how to beat guys. He's just brilliant in the open field. I don't see that for him. I don't think he is Anthony Richardson 2.0. I also like Anthony Richardson. The biggest part of him right now, what is failing, is up here.
Yeah.
It's in his head. It's in between the 2 ears. And I think that comparison is going to be used way too much in the coming years because what Anthony Richardson did last season in a game has never happened, at least publicly, in football before. A quarterback asking out of a drive because he's tired.
Yeah.
Like
That's crazy,
that's a different kind of just
Sure.
something going on in here that's not right. I don't think any quarterback right now deserves that comparison because for Anthony it's up there. Anthony, the talent is there. He shows that. Now his completion percentage is terrible, but he makes plays that you have never seen before.
Yeah. Sure.
I think LaNorris is. I think it's unfair to compare LaNorris to Anthony even after only one season of starting a quarterback for South Carolina.
And the other thing that Richardson has that's hurting him just beside is between his ears is basically every other part of his body because he's so injury prone. He's missed so many games due to injury.
Sure.
But I think hindsight 2020, sure, Anthony Richardson is not developing. But I think if another Anthony Richardson came out, he would go like top 6, top 10 as a quarterback. He'd be a top 4 quarterback prospect. Like that's just the reality is like because of the value that is placed on quarterbacks in football and at the NFL level. If you've got a guy who's coming out, and Anthony Richardson is still younger than, I was talking about someone in the TikTok section yesterday, TikTok comments, Stetson Bennett. Anthony Richardson is still younger than Stetson Bennett was when he was drafted. And this guy was trying to say that Stetson Bennett is going to develop into a good quarterback. That's a different argument. But he was so young and he was so talented. I think 10 times out of 10, you're taking that opportunity to try and develop him.
Yeah. Fair enough. I also disagree with the comparison because I also feel like Lenoris has put more on tape than Anthony Richardson ever did. So I get that there's still some unknowns, but there's nowhere near the levels of unknowns that there were with Anthony Richardson. And the mental aspects of, a good point to make because you can't ever really project that.
Yeah, and
I mean, you can a little bit, but not.
I'm not projecting Lenoris. He's not going to be a star his rookie year. I don't see that right now, at least.
Sure.
I think Anthony was being projected to be a star and was kind of expected to be that immediately. I think Lenoris is a development piece, so there's some comparison there, but I think he's just going to develop way better than Anthony ever would. And I would draft him for his ceiling because that is a huge part of the NFL right now is how good is your quarterback. And you think of your previous Super Bowl champions, Jalen Hurts, excellent quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, excellent. Matthew Stafford, excellent. And even the guys that are getting there year after year to the championship game and Josh Allen, Lamar, those are quarterbacks that are not your typical quarterbacks. They're quarterbacks with just traits that not every other quarterback has been given by God. And Lenoris has those traits. So that's why I would have Lenoris as my number one guy, is he just has traits that were given to him that not everyone else has. And he's still got another year to develop. This is, of course, a preseason ranking, and I expect this to change a lot. But right now, Lenoris would be my number one overall pick, or at least my number one overall quarterback. It would depend on team.
Sure.
If he'd be number one overall pick. Caleb Downs very easily could be number one overall pick. But that'll feed into my...
Hold on. I was just going to talk to Sven real quick and say I'd push back on that and go once again. I think Richardson's going to bounce around. I think that he's going to even after he gets cut, after his rookie contract ends, which will be... this is year 3, so he's got this year and one more year. Unless they see something from him in this season that they decide to pick up the 5th-year option. But I think Richardson's the kind of guy who's going to bounce around. He'll end up on a roster or even a practice squad of a QB coach, a QB whisperer, and fans and coaches are going to think, can we unlock him? He's not going to be done the minute his contract is up. He's going to be in the league for a while just because of the talent he has, because coaches are going to think we can do what no one has been able to do.
Yeah, I mean, but Sven is necessarily saying he won't ever get signed, but he just think he's never going to really play again. And I think I agree with that. The odds are once he gets cut and someone does try and fix him, those fixes don't more often than not they don't really work out.
Yeah. I disagree. I think he's going to start for another team one day. Justin Fields is the comparison right now. I think didn't work out in Chicago.
Sure.
And then Justin is now going to start for 2 different NFL franchises from there because of how talented Justin is. He earns the right to be in quarterback rooms because you can't teach the kind of speed, the kind of throwing ability that he has. And while it hasn't been there in his head, while it hasn't been there from an accurate perspective, he has earned the right to be in quarterback rooms. Anthony's going to get the same treatment, I think, in my eyes.
I think people just don't like Anthony Richardson, though, from a mentality and a personality standpoint.
It might be true, and I don't disagree with that. What he's done is unprecedented from there, but he's going to be on another team.
Yeah.
He's going to start another game. His career is far from over. And he's still 23 years old.
That's what I was about to say. Coaches can be like, oh, he was just 22. He's barely old enough to drink. What can we do with a 26, 27-year-old Anthony Richardson? Maybe then he, maybe he understands how important it is and the opportunities he's been given. There's a lot of arguments you can make.
I'm just saying he's so talented, and yet the Colts had to bring in Daniel Jones, and
Yeah.
Daniel Jones wins the starting job
Well, the
over
Colts
him.
JP would
serve,
push
so-
back on the Daniel Jones hate for a second.
Daniel Jones is fine, but it's not like we brought in some great QB to replace
Yeah.
the young kid that has so much talent that he deserves more shots.
Well, the Colts are going for the win. They're trying to win. They're in a division where they should be winning with how poor it is. So that's why they've made that move. And it's not their fault that Anthony didn't play well enough to start over Daniel Jones.
Correct, it's his
that's
fault.
Anthony's fault.
Let's
Anyway.
go to number 2.
Number 2, for me, it's Drew Aller. It's my guy out of Penn State, the Nittany Lions. This guy has, for one, the first comparison right now that he's getting a ton is Josh Allen. I don't think that's fair. He looks physically like Josh Allen. But for me right now, he is not there, even close to being the freak of nature that Josh Allen is.
It's a very unfair comparison to give anyone.
Drew Aller, his movement in a breaking down pocket is nowhere near Josh Allen. In fact, I think it's one of his biggest weaknesses. He is not great at moving through the pocket. With his size, he should be able to just throw over offensive linemen and defensive linemen. But when a pocket breaks down, he'll start looking at the lineman and trying to find a hole rather than just sliding his feet up in the pocket, sliding to the left, sliding to the right. He loses a little bit of feel there. And then also Josh Allen is known for he doesn't care. He's going to run through someone. Drew Aller, rightfully so, and I like that he does it, protects himself a ton when he runs. He's not a guy that's going to run anybody over. He's a guy that's going to get down 2 to 3 yards early before he takes any hits. And he should do that because he's the only option for the Nittany Lions, and he is kind of the engine that will give them a chance to win a national championship this year. But I still haven't really seen at any point, even in the playoffs, Drew Aller try to run through someone, try to take over a game physically. And that's something we've seen in college football from a lot of different quarterbacks, that as it got later in the season, that's when those guys were not afraid to try to run through someone and were less afraid to, or were less likely to protect themselves, I would say. This is something Clemson would do a ton with. Trevor Lawrence is one of the examples I give you there. But the talent is there for Drew. He's an unbelievably strong arm. In my opinion, he has the best mechanics out of all of the quarterbacks. I think he's just got a perfect throwing motion, honestly, from a clean pocket. He's not afraid to give his receivers a chance, which is something I love. He will throw jump balls, and even at Penn State, where they have had almost zero option at receiver from a jump ball perspective outside of Tyler Warren, he will throw at these guys and give them a chance to make a play. One of the big ones is 4th and 10 in the Big Ten championship game. They were down 14, and he threw a jump ball to one of his receivers literally in the middle of the field. Dude makes the play. And Drew Aller doesn't get enough credit for, giving his guys opportunities to make those kinds of plays, because receivers are really, really talented, and receivers are going to love a quarterback that gives them a chance. Drew Aller is not afraid to give other guys a chance.
That reminds me, is that a Ryan Fitzpatrick trait? That's what that feels like to me. Could I be
Sure.
making that up? That's what that's what it feels like. I remember him, especially like in Tampa Bay, was like he was just the guy who was just like gonna go out there and just give his wide receivers an opportunity. That's what I feel like I remember. But
Yeah, I imagine it's a thing of like they know, they just have the feeling inside them that is like, I know I'm not the most physically gifted guy on the field right now, and so I'm going to give the guy that is the most physically gifted a chance to go out there and make a play and win the game for us. Drew Aller's got that, and I'm really excited to see how he plays with that now with the receivers that they've brought in the room, that James Franklin has already said that they are going to be exponentially better at making the 50-50 catches, so I expect to see Drew throw a ton of them this season. He's massive, of course, 6'5". He's roughly about 220 now. He's lost about 10 pounds this offseason, but in losing those 10 pounds, he's put on a ton of muscle, according to James Franklin, and so he's looking for him to be more physically imposing this year, and that's kind of been how he's progressed. Is his freshman year, he was not very physically imposing. He reminded you of a small. For me, he reminds me of like his freshman year reminded me of what like Garrett Nussmeier kind of looks like right now. He put on a ton of weight going into his junior season, and then now he's lost a little bit of weight and he's back to some muscle mass for this season. So I'm excited to see how he plays there. But I think the maturation last year was huge for him. He made big throws throughout the entire season. His arm is so strong that he gets in spots where he is being sacked, like literally being sacked, and he's still delivering a football to somebody. It's what I love to see about him. And now I just want to see from him this year is, can you go out there? You've got no excuse, literally zero excuse. Go and win a championship. Drew's going to get that opportunity. I want to see that because that is like the biggest knock on the guys that are not Patrick Mahomes is that they don't do that right now in the NFL.
Sure.
And no one wants to draft a quarterback that's just going to be putting you in that same spot of, oh, you're still just aren't good enough to quite get over the hump, even when you have no excuses. And Drew's got that opportunity this year.
So I'll ask you this then. If he leads Penn State to a championship, what % chance do you think it is that he goes first overall?
I think it's almost a guarantee unless Lenoris is just like, I think it's almost a guarantee unless another one of these guys wins the Heisman.
Sure.
And I would be surprised if he didn't win the Heisman, Drew, if he had led Penn State to the playoff. And if they're going to win the national championship, they're going to probably have to go undefeated. I think as good as like that season would have been for Penn State, I don't think you want to put James Franklin and that team in an extra round of a playoff game that you have to win the big game because they will have two of them already in the regular season in Ohio State and Oregon. You have the Big Ten championship, and then you don't want to play an extra playoff game on top of all of that, even if it is at home. And so if they were to win the national championship, Drew Aller's probably the Heisman. So, yeah, it would have to be someone else winning the Heisman, I think, to really kind of knock him off the top spot.
Fair
or
enough.
I think Arch Manning declaring might be enough for Arch to be the number 1 overall pick,
That's fair.
just because of the name. I think that's a large part of the buzz for him being a top 5 pick right now. I still would have Arch. Arch would be up here. Arch would be my number 3 guy right now behind Drew. But that's mainly because Arch hasn't had the chance to really show any of it yet.
He would be he'd be the biggest unknown in this class for sure.
Absolutely. My number 3 guy is also my guy and Sven's guy, apparently, Cade Klubnik out of Clemson, senior year. This will be his 3rd year being the starting quarterback for the Clemson Tigers. He came in a few spots here and there. His freshman season, the DJ Uiagalelei season, where they still won the ACC. Cade, I still have as a early first-round pick grade. I'd have him in a top 10 pick grade. Everyone going forward is not a top 10 pick for me right now, including the next guy. Cade, things I love about him, ball placement. He throws a beautiful deep ball. The ability of he's the best quarterback in this class of throwing a ball with touch, with arc, down the field. He's brilliant at throwing the basketball, if that makes sense. He's great at throwing the deep ball that just flies right over the receiver's shoulder and they catch it in the basket. That's his best throw that he's got. The ability to use his legs, I don't think he gets enough credit for. I think he's been one of the better Tigers at using his legs, if not the best. Although Trevor Lawrence is a high ceiling to get over. But the ton of experience, I think it's going to help him a ton. That'll be 3 years starting quarterback for the Clemson Tigers. They play in essentially a pro system for the most part. There's a little bit of spread that isn't necessarily the NFL as much. And he also hasn't taken much of any snaps under center. Biggest thing for Cade right now, and this is coming from a Clemson Tiger fan, is he's not necessarily a gamer. He can be stopped. He can be slowed down, and this was shown last season in the Georgia game, the Louisville game, the South Carolina game. If everything's not necessarily going right, he isn't necessarily the quarterback that's going to win you the game. And that's something I have to see from him this season. It's something I have to see in week 1. from Cade is if something isn't going right, which in week 1 it's going to be the case, is he good enough to go out there and win the game for you? Because right now I just see him as a consistent NFL starting caliber quarterback. I'd put him near Bo Nix is kind of the comparison I give him. I think that's a fair comparison. He'd have one less season starting than Bo did coming out of the draft, but he's still a first-round pick in my eyes. Is there any things about Cade that you like that you don't like?
The big thing I don't like is what you already touched on, is he doesn't really go out and win games, or at least he hasn't yet. He's not someone that elevates the players around him. He's more of a system quarterback currently, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you just don't really see, talking about him, being a top 3 quarterback in an early first grade. If he continues to just show that, there's no way he ends up being the first QB taken. The first QB off the board isn't like a safe QB pick. But I also will say is we've kind of seen a recent trend of NFL teams not caring as much about the age or experience of quarterbacks. Think about last year. Bo Nix and Michael Penix both got drafted very high. I personally expected them to slide a little bit because it was like, oh, they're old. Like, you know what you're going to get from them. There is nothing more to tap into, and teams don't care as long as you can play quarterback at a good rate. But yeah, I would love to see him go week 1 against a good LSU team that people were very high on and be like, nope, I'm here. Dice them up, make plays when they're needed, maybe hit a couple big runs, key third down scrambles for a first down, stuff like that, and show that he can kind of take the reins of an offense and lead them to a win. Because that's my biggest knock, but he does throw a nice ball.
Yeah, well, is the quote from his OC or QB coach going into I think last season was like, he was asked in an interview, how many games does K need to win? And he said 0. I just needed to manage them.
It was after the Georgia game, yeah. Because he was, that's basically exactly what it was. And so some of it could be what Clemson is asking him to do. That's holding him back, right? But at the same time, I can't imagine that Clemson's in a game at South Carolina where they're struggling to move the ball. Clemson's going, yeah, it's all good. Like, don't try and make plays for us. Mm-hmm. I do think a lot of it's still on him.
He's going to have to because of what they've got in the running back room as well. They're not going to have the typical Clemson running attack. And so the season is on Cade's shoulders for the most part, unless the defense just becomes a top 3 defense in college football. He'll have a ton to prove, but he's still, right now, a top 10 pick for me. I think he's shown enough on tape to earn that right. That leads into my next quarterback, who is not a top 10 pick at least, but he's still a first-round grade for me, and that's Garrett Nussmeier. This is a pure pocket passer. One of the things I mentioned that I love about his game is he floats into space really well. He knows, like, even if the pocket is not breaking down, how to roll out of the pocket, roll into a spot where there is nobody near him and nobody rushing him. But he also does it well in rolling to the spot where the play is going as well. I think he's got the best zip on the ball out of anyone in the draft. He throws a really, really, really tight spiral, and because of that, he can fit it into really tight windows. He's really accurate with it. It doesn't really matter, conditions, because his ability to put the zip on the ball keeps it flying through windy conditions, rainy conditions, which he has not experienced a ton. In fact, he may have only played in one rain game ever. It doesn't rain in Death Valley. That's kind of their saying down there at LSU, is it never rains in Death Valley, which it rarely does. But Garrett plays exceptional from the pocket. The biggest thing for him right now, there's just zero speed threat. And at 6'2", it looks like he's tiny. He looks tiny. You wouldn't think he was 6'2". I think a lot of us would think he's 5'11", 6 foot. And because of the offensive line that he's played in, especially last year, I don't know about his durability. I think if he was in a bad offensive line and got hit 3 to 4 times a game, he would get hurt more often than not. He's just not physically built big enough to withstand hits from NFL defensive linemen. He's got a ton to prove this season, as every single guy on this list does. I think he's the guy that he has to – I don't think he has to earn his first round. I think he could play kind of bad this season and still be taken in the first round just because of how physically gifted he is as a quarterback just alone. I think LSU could go 7-5, 8-4, and it wouldn't matter. I think Garrett would still be up there in that first round. He's kind of already solidified that. And he's certainly solidified that from a scout perspective and from a GM perspective and a media perspective. So I don't expect him to fall out of the first round. But I don't expect him to rise really high this year.
The physical limitations are pretty tough. And then I just want to say this real quick, and then I'll kick it to you, Sanders. Talking about the ball he throws, if I wanted like any quarterback to go win an arcade game for me, he's the guy I'm picking because he's so accurate. He hits the tight windows, which can get him into a little bit of trouble because he will just start to force stuff into the smallest of windows, make some ill-advised throws. But no, like he would be the guy that would just go hit 10 targets in a row that, you know, the arcade game no one can beat, win me the big old plush panda bear, and I'd walk away happy.
Which side of the cutoff for potential first overall pick is he on? Do you think is that a possibility for him, or have we already passed that line?
What do you mean?
So, like, I'm not, like, going to hold you at, like, your prediction or anything, but, like, if, you've ranked these guys, is he a guy you could see going first, or...
I don't see him going first overall.
Okay, so Sellers, Aller, Klubnik, could those three guys...
I think... I think those are the three guys that can go
so
first.
Nussmeier
Arch Manning would be in that conversation, but those would be the three guys. He's not a first-round pick, or not a first overall pick. I think has a chance to get the top 10, but that would be the highest I'd take him.
Okay, so he is like the start of a second tier, kind of.
Sure, I think that's fair. And the next guy is very similar to Nuss and Sam Levitt, also a 6'2". This guy has strong arm. Good zip, not great zip. Ball placement is really good, actually. I think it's better than people really know. And I also say that because I don't think really anyone knows. And I'll say I'm guilty of it too. And every single person on this table is guilty of it. Not enough people have watched Arizona State to know how good Sam Levitt is, actually. So this kind of grade already this early, even from PFF, feels like, wait, how did this happen? This feels a little bit early because even in the national televised games, he was not a first-round quarterback. But I think what he showed last season and watching it back, I think is good enough to be a potential first-round quarterback. Right now, I would not have him picked in the first round. I think you only pick him in the first round if you wanted the fifth-year option. But I think he's an NFL quarterback. I think he can be selected in the second round and potentially roll into a starting job, but he'd be a backup right now. He's not afraid to step up and run. And the biggest thing I love about him right now is if he's got a great receiver, he is not afraid to throw it to him ever. And he has that in Jordan Tyson and had that last year in Jordan Tyson. And man, did he throw the ball to Jordan Tyson a ton. And he would just give Jordan Tyson every single chance possible, which is something I love about Sam Levitt. That's not something that is in every quarterback where they target their top guy all the time. In fact, Kyler Murray, one of his quotes from last season was, "It's not necessarily my job to target Marvin Harrison Jr." I hate that. You go target your guys, especially guys that are as talented as Jordan Tyson and Marvin Harrison Jr. The big thing for Sam is just the unknowns, especially without Scatabo, who had literally over 2,000 all-purpose yards last year, 1,700 on the ground and 300 through the air. And so how does that offense look when they don't have Scatabo? I know we've talked about it that we think the running back room won't take a big step back, but you also still have to replace 2,000 all-purpose yards. I don't think you're going to replace that immediately. And so I want to see that from Sam. And now I also want to see, like, how do they play as the hunted and not the hunters? He's got a chance to play himself into the first round, but I'd be surprised if he did. I think I just would have to see more game-winning moments from him this year.
Sure. I think for him to get in the first round, it's honestly more of a how many QB desperate teams do there end up being. Because I think he is good enough that if a team's like, man, we really need a quarterback, they can convince themselves / he is worth, somebody like we need to fill a need. So like he's our guy. We're gonna go get him. We're not gonna risk not getting him in the second round. Because I do really like him, and I like the kind of moxie he plays with. You said that Cade isn't necessarily a gamer. I think Sam Levitt has that. And talking about losing Scadaboo, and you mentioned it earlier, like I think we've all been a little disrespectful to Sam Levitt. Losing Scadaboo is a big piece, but we just all like naturally the offseason hit and it was like, well, they lost Scadaboo, so they're not going to be as good. And it's like, all right, well, Sam Levitt was a big part of that success, and he had a very good season. And if you turn on the tape, he made big throws and good throws. I mean, Jordan Tyson was a big part of that too. So I just don't want to discount what he did last season. I do need to see it again, but I personally expect that we'll see it again.
Yeah.
All right, now my sixth guy, who is also an early second-round grade, and this is Taylon Green. Just a freak of nature. He is built bigger, better, faster, stronger than every other guy on this list. Even Lenoris Sellers, I think he's just he makes Lenoris look a little less athletic with how athletic Taylon Green is, but production isn't there, accuracy isn't there. He runs too much, which is something I don't like. Even though that's might be his best trait is how well he runs. The potential is all there because every physical talent required is there, and it's there at an elite level. But he doesn't necessarily know how to read a defense. He turns the ball over at times. He plays, as I said, too much with his legs. And so he's going to need to show a ton this season to say that he is, going to be an excellent quarterback. But given what he is, I don't see how he's not taken at least in the second round next year unless he was just awful this season, because everything is there to be, the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, I don't know about guaranteed second, but definitely top half of the draft. I'm personally pretty out on him. I don't think he has the mental aspect or the IQ to play the position at a high enough level.
Absolutely.
And that is the NFL. And I don't think that's ever going to come around. He is fun to watch because of how toolsy he is. Personally, I don't know if I actually wish this because Maddox Madsen worked out at Boise State, but it would have been kind of cool to see him and Ashton Jeanty together at Boise State just causing havoc. It would have been electric to watch. Obviously, it worked out well for Boise State. But just the thought I just had of man, that would have been really cool to just see him and the read option with Ashton Jeanty and Taylon Green would be nasty.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm pretty out on him just because I haven't seen enough from the mental space and just he misses too many throws for me, and he's played a lot of ball in his time. So, but I get the tools, and if you can just take him and tap into it, it could work out. So I got a question for Sven real quick.
Yeah.
Talking about Braylon Braxton, the Southern Miss QB, if you're hyping him up this much, how worried are you for week 1 as a State fan?
That's going to be an interesting conversation. I was looking at Braxton's stats, and stats not everything. I'd have to go back and watch it. I wonder how big is he? It's just he's 6'2", 225, so he's a bigger guy. Is that I guess, Gronowski build maybe? More like a Mark Gronowski?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't know what Braylon Braxton's play style is.
Yeah,
I have no idea if he's a runner, if he's a passer.
He's not. I don't think he's really a runner. He had 600 yards and 4 touchdowns.
And we can move on while he answers. I just
Yeah.
am curious. I just want to be able to see it when he, I know you're a little worried. They're getting less
not anymore,
worried.
Not anymore.
Okay.
Not worried anymore.
My next quarterback, and this is the last quarterback I'll do a bunch of talking about, is Carson Beck. This guy is a late second-round grade for me. He was projected to be the number 1 overall pick in last year's draft going into last season. And then the wheels kind of fell off. Georgia couldn't run the ball. The receivers weren't there for Georgia. He had kind of no one to throw to without Lad McConkey, without Brock Bowers. He struggled a ton because of that. There were also injury concerns. He hurts his shoulder late in the season. Gunnar Stockton comes in and wins the SEC championship. He never really recovers from the shoulder injury. Couldn't play. Had to get surgery. Wasn't throwing a football until about a month and a half ago, so maybe there's some concern how he plays to start this season. But he's built like an NFL quarterback at 6'4", 220. He uses his legs well. He throws really well off platform, which he doesn't get enough credit for. And, of course, he throws well from a clean pocket, which he got a ton of at Georgia. The biggest thing for me on Carson, and I want to see it this year with Miami, is he played at Georgia. Can he play well when he is the best player on the field? Because when he played at Georgia, not many times was he the best player on the field until last season. He was the best player on that offense and the best player on the field, and he didn't lead his team in key spots throughout the season. You know, the Alabama game, he struggles early and then comes on late. It was kind of disappointing, I think.
Sure.
It was certainly disappointing for Georgia fans, I can tell you that much, at least. But he'll have a chance at Miami to kind of prove that wrong, because he showed, at least over the course of an entire season, if he is the best player on an offense, it's not a guarantee that you're going to be great. And a large part of why they won a ton of games last year was because their defense showed up, and Georgia was just, the physical profile was better than every other team they played. Miami, there's still going to be a chance that they have that because of the talent that they do have there from a recruiting perspective and from the portal. But I want to see it. I want to
Sure.
see it from Carson this year. Right now, I would still draft him. I think he's got a lot to show, and he's built like an NFL quarterback. You don't find 6'4", 220 all the time with the ability to throw the ball as well as he does.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It definitely was a rough season for him last year, but I do feel like the pendulum has swung a little too far. And part of it is, like, if you play quarterback at Georgia and you don't play very well, it's like a very fun guy to hate on and dog on. Like, you don't get your chance to take shots at Georgia football very often.
No.
So, like, when you have the opportunity to rag, you are going to rag some. But he's going to have a chance to bounce back. It's going to be a great system for him to do that. And even from a standpoint of just putting up stats, he's in a great conference to do that with who they'll play. So I definitely think he'll be drafted top 2 rounds. I'm a little worried about leadership and like just mental qualities there as well, because I would have liked to see a little more mental fortitude last year. But it could just be a learning experience. He could, prove that was just kind of a blip, and he builds up. Kind of how I viewed Kyle McCord, right? Of like his sophomore season or his last season at Ohio State didn't end very well, but I liked how he bounced back at Syracuse, and that's why I was willing to draft him pretty high. And he was my QB4 this past year. It could be a similar thing for Carson Beck.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I wonder how it'll pan out for him in Miami, because I feel like now that he's out of Georgia, Georgia's a better situation, at least support-wise, than Miami will be. I'm not very high on the Miami wide receivers and all the guys they lost. Georgia lost all their guys, but they were bad. And so they replaced them with the A&M transfer. They bring in Zachariah Branch from USC. I think Georgia might have better weapons now than Miami does, so I'll be interested to see how does it go down there. I mean, we kind of assume he left for the money, but as far as, like, can he, like, put up a good enough season with those sort of supporting weapons that I'm not high on to kind of earn back some of the draft hype that he lost after a bad year last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think relative, even if the weapons aren't, like, you line them up against Georgia, they may not be quite as good, and they are an unknown. But considering who he gets to play,
Yeah.
it's like the skill gap between his offense and the opposing defenses will be higher than the skill gap between his offense at Georgia and the opposing defenses he'd play at Georgia. Because,
Yeah.
I think the Miami O-line is going to be very good this year, and it wasn't very good at Georgia last year. So even if, like, the skill position players aren't fantastic, I think they'll be behind a great O-line.
Yeah, Sven, that was the point I was going to make as well just now. He'll be playing the ACC, and I think that's going to help him a ton this year, make him look better. So he's more than likely going to play himself. I think he's more likely going to play himself higher than late second round. I think he'll have a great season there.
Week 1 is huge for him, I will say.
Week 1 will be a huge test against Notre Dame, hosting them at Hard Rock Stadium. And so we'll see how that goes. That's the last quarterback I'll talk in depth about. I'm not going to talk in depth about John Mateer, which no disrespect to him, but he is my 8th quarterback.
Got to cut it off at some point.
He's a gamer. He's got a chance to, maybe he has a chance to win the Heisman, but he's got a chance to play himself into the first round. And then at 9, I have Nico Maliava. At 10, I have Miller Moss. 11, Jalen Daniels. 12 is Haynes King. 13 is Diego Pavia. 14, Kevin Jennings. And Blake Shapen rounds out my prospects at 15th as a late 7th round pick. Right now I have 4 first-round picks, 4 second-round picks, and then 7 players from there. And like I said, Arch Manning is not included on this list, and Dante Moore is not included on this list. Also not included on this list, which PFF is high on, is Fernando Mendoza, quarterback of Indiana. I don't like really anything from his game necessarily, so I don't know why he's rated as high as he is. I'll be completely honest. But I also had Shador Sanders rated really high, so who knows what I know. Haynes King over Imaliava from Sven. I don't agree.
I also
Clearly.
do not agree.
I do have a question for you in this segment, though. I'm going to kick John Mateer off because I think the upside is pretty clear there. 9 through 15, if you had to choose one guy that has the best chance, or like just you're going to make a read, is like a 8-year starter in the NFL. Who's your guy? I mean, you could obviously you'd be like none of them are going to be 8-year starters, but y'all have to choose one.
I mean, I'm going Iamaliava or Miller Moss. I don't think it's Blake Shapen. Just, I mean, if he's an 8-year starter, he'll be 35. Not actually. He's not quite that old.
Maybe I
but
can think of an 8-year starter, but like
No, I think gets to a second contract for a team.
gets to a second contract. I think it's Iamaliava. Even if he doesn't excel, if it's just for the same reason as we talked about Anthony Richardson, like getting that opportunity because of the talent and the attributes. Like, I think Iamaliava is almost guaranteed a second contract because he's 6'6" and like was a 5-star, and that's not all it takes. But like because while he hasn't shown like that he can utilize all of those attributes yet, you know, he didn't have the best season in his first year as a starter. I think that the talent and the attributes he has will earn him a second contract.
It's Jalen Daniels for me. He's not on PFF's list because he was hurt for much of last season, and so there's not a ton on tape. But I think out of the guys that are in there from 9 to 15, he is the most talented out of those quarterbacks, and so I think talent is the biggest chance to get to that second contract.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a bit of like projection / I mean, it's a read, so I don't know why I'm saying I'm fixing to make a bit of a read, guys. I'm gonna go Haynes King. I think A&M killed the kid. Like, I mean, I was very in tune to that. It's not. I think we destroyed his confidence. I think we destroyed his mechanics. We got him hurt multiple times, and so then he goes to Georgia Tech and had a good season last year, but was still hurt, so we didn't really get to see a ton of the throwing. So I'm going to hope that he's going to have yet another good year and take another step as a passer and then parlay that into a second contract in the NFL and also gig him.
Sven, if Sawyer Robertson turns into Robertson, I'm going to be pretty sad. I mean, we talked about it when we did our Baylor preview. We were like, you know, was it sad when this kid left? I was like, you know, who knows what could have been. It made sense for him and it makes sense for us, but like it still sucks to know that someone on your roster. I mean, it's kind of how I felt about Dylan Johnson when he went to Washington. Not that he would have had the same success at State, but I am sad when I see a guy who was on our roster go and be great somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a mixture of sadness and also like I'm happy for you.
Oh, I am happy for him, and I'm happy for Sawyer because, I mean, Will Rogers put up a good season or two after. All right, wait, when did Robertson leave?
I couldn't tell you.
After my freshman year.
So he's been gone a minute.
Mm-hmm.
No, Will Rogers.
No, he said Sawyer Robertson.
Oh, okay.
Shall we move on to our last segment?
What is our last segment?
JP's he's going to walk us through
football.
some fantasy rankings.
Okay, so do I need to put this up here or not?
I would prefer if you did. It would
Okay,
make it
yeah.
a lot easier.
Is this let's try.
And cutting out as much of promotional as possible.
That's what I've got right now.
So maybe throw us up in the top left.
Yeah. Okay.
Because when you scroll, the stuff up top is still going to stay there. That's actually a lie. Me when I lie.
I can put us. You want us?
I put us in the bottom corner, honestly. No.
Yeah, put us in the bottom right. I think that's fair.
All right, guys.
There's not a great spot for us to be.
If you're here for the live, you're just about to see me edit mid-show. It's fine.
I called you
We're all friends
our
here.
editing
We're
what?
all friends here.
Editing engine? No. What did I call it?
Editor, I think is what you call
Yeah,
me.
but-
I don't think you call
No,
me.
but it was there was a double E. So like editing something, editor.
extraordinaire.
I don't think I called you an extraordinaire. No disrespect.
You could have. All right, that didn't work. Let's come over here.
Man, Bijan's looking really good there at 1-2. Big Daddy slid down to
Now I
6 in the
make
couples
us
league.
Small. If it lets me, it's locked. Let me unlock.
Did you get your guy in the couples league, by the way, off the waiver?
Yeah, I've got everyone that I wanted.
Big.
Which is 3. This is sad to see, though,
what?
because we're looking at Puka Nakua, who I unfortunately had to
Not keep.
let go. Because then I would be screwed from the running back department.
Oh, you had to let him go in the keeper league, not like an
I
actual.
had no choice.
I thought you were talking about the couples
Yeah,
league.
the old yeller Puka Nakua.
I literally.
Oh my! What just happened?
You put it sideways.
How did I do that? I don't know.
There's
how.
got to be a back button, right? You rotate 90 degrees. Is that just what you did?
Definitely.
But I didn't.
Maybe just
right,
accidentally
there I am.
bumped it.
You did.
We just put Sven through a little blender.
Sorry. All right. Well, that's still not.
Problem is, I'm not. Yeah, like, at best, I'm getting, like, Tony Pollard as my first running back if I didn't keep Bucky.
We kind of get screwed by the expansion teams.
Oh, 100%.
I'm of the opinion the expansion teams just have to deal with the scraps for a couple of years and earn their way in.
I just don't like that it was switched from 6 to 5.
Yeah.
I think if it was at 6 and where it normally is, it would have been great. Now I'm curious, will it stay at 5 forever?
No, I think it's going to go back up.
If it goes back to 6, okay. But I'm also pissed because I lost Puka Nakua for no reason. I would have had 3 guys that are drafted in the top 8.
Yeah.
For context, now that the camera is fixed, the 3 of us, or the 2 of them, were in a keeper league. I got added for a guy who had a team that he didn't manage and didn't want to play. So I now control his team. His team is awful. The only player on that team really worth keeping is Xavier Worthy.
Wow, you're disrespecting your boy Bryce Young like that.
It is a bad team. And then that we are adding 2 of our friends in an expansion draft, but that means that everyone has to keep less players than normal, and that's what Jack and JP are complaining about because they have good players, but I don't care because I have bad players.
Why'd you only keep 2 people?
No reason.
He'll get to draft earlier than us.
I get to draft
He'll
earlier
get to
than you.
draft he'll get a draft round 3, round 4, and round 5.
I'm gonna have Ashton Genty and O'Marion Hampton on my team.
So I should have dropped everybody.
You should have.
No.
No, it is an actual. It's not a cheat code because like it's balanced because my team's actually so awful that I need Ashton Genty and O'Marion Hampton.
That's interesting.
Yeah, my cousin accidentally did it to us in our family keeper league, and he didn't know what he was doing. And then he ended up taking it with his bonus picks. He drafted Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, and Ashton Genty.
Interesting.
Because
he could have cooked and he didn't.
He didn't have a quarterback, and he was like, "Oh, I really need quarterback," and it didn't occur to him that he could just take quarterback like later. Get into your rankings, JP.
Yeah,
We're
I'm
ready.
gonna go through this. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to go through this like from a round to round perspective. I'm gonna give thoughts on every single player that I can, but for the most part, I'm gonna look at it from a round to round. Let's say you're in a 10-team league. Here's how it would look in the first round. Here's the guys that are on the docket for you: Jamar Chase, Bijan, Jay Jetta, Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs, CD. McCaffrey, Puka Malik, and then Amon-Ra. Now, if you're in the top 10 or in a 10-team league in that first round pick, it should not be anyone outside of these top 10 guys. Ashton Genty has a ton of potential as a rookie running back. And historically, the rookie running back has been, except for 1 year, since I think it's 2017, has been better than last year's running back 1 every single year.
So Ashton Genty is going to be theoretically better than Saquon Barkley was last
Ashton
year.
Genty is essentially guaranteed to be better than Saquon Barkley this year. But I think we're in a spot where that's going to kind of change this year, and it's not going to be the case this year. It still would take Saquon over Ashton. I think you're in just a luckier spot there. But the first running back rookie taken off the board since 2017 has been better than last year's running back 1 every year except for 1. And the other 1 was last year where it was the guy from Jonathan Brooks from Carolina, and he did not play the entire season.
Yeah.
So that's your only exception to the rule. I expect Ashton Genty to play the entire year, but I would not take Ashton Genty in my top 10 as a first-round pick. For me, the number 1 overall pick should be Bijan Robinson.
Bijan.
I think his receiving production is insane. He's in his prime. All of those things. The shares he get was kind of talked about a ton last season with Tyler Algier. Like, he wasn't getting the numbers when he wasn't getting the touches in the goal line. But he struggles for those first 4 weeks, really first 5, not scoring more than 16 points. But from there on, he averaged 27 points per game as a running back. And so for me, he is the first overall pick. Also, the only kind of like downside on him this season is, how's he going to play with Michael Penix?
He played with Kirk Cousins last year, but
In the 3 games he played with Michael Penix, he averaged 27 points. He scored 24 points or more every single time, including 31 in the finale of the season. So even in the concern with Michael Penix, he was excellent. He would be my number 1 overall pick. Jamar Chase would be second for me. I would take Jamar's number 2 overall. The knock on Jamar is he's the first overall pick, and historically the 1.01 has not been great for many years running. But nothing has changed in Cincinnati. Quarterback is still the same. Even T. Higgins is still there. What changes is when T. Higgins is out. He is just like unbelievable. And given T. Higgins and his injury concerns, like I think Jamar Chase is just kind of a layup as a number 2 overall pick. And then it gets into the interesting spot where you're sitting there at 3. For me, my 3rd overall pick, this friend just brought up Scatabo for whatever reason. But my 3rd overall pick would
Sven
be...
does love Scatabo. He's talked about him a lot, which is fair. I mean, he's like he's like the Haynes King of running backs. We just talked about him earlier, and I don't mean to be like go off at a tangent, but like that's my comparison. So it's fair that he does love him, but continue.
It'd be Jahmyr Gibbs. He's ranked as 5 for ESPN, but he would be the 3rd pick for me. I just think the production is there, the receiving talent is there. Now, there's 2 concerns with Jahmyr Gibbs this year, and the 2 are Frank Ragnow retiring, and there's a stat that last year in the 3 games without Frank Ragnow, Detroit was ranked 23rd in run blocking success. In the games Frank Ragnow played, they were ranked 3rd in run blocking success. So there is concern there for Gibbs, but I think the ceiling is just kind of unbelievable for this guy, specifically in the final 3 weeks of the season last year. If you had him in the postseason, weeks 15 through 18, he averaged 30 points per game. So this is a guy that, like, when you're drafting the first round, you're looking for guys that can just straight out win you the week by scoring 40 points or more. Jahmyr Gibbs is in that class, along with Bijan and Jamar Chase. So I'd have him at 3. And then...
Hold up. Do you have any concerns about David Montgomery and the fact that he gets some of the goal line touches?
No, because last year, even with David Montgomery and all his touches on the goal line, Jahmyr Gibbs was ranked 6th in the NFL in touches inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
6th.
So it's just one of those things where as a fantasy owner, fantasy manager, it definitely, sometimes you see Montgomery, and I have Gibbs in a keeper league. I have Bijan and Gibbs in the same league. It's insane. But it does hurt when you see Montgomery trot out there and you're like, freak this guy. But it's that the 5% of those plays are clouding your judgment, clouding your memory of the 95% where Gibbs is getting the big touches.
Correct. You would like him to have 100% of the touches
Exactly.
on the goal line.
Yeah.
They run the ball more than anyone inside the 10-yard line and anyone inside the red zone. And so for me, like, yeah, Gibbs was 6th in goal line touches, and so I'd have him at 4. Keeper League draft is supposed to be this weekend. Morton. I think it's Sunday or Monday, one of the 2. I forgot. They're mixed up. Number 2 overall pick.
Hold on. How do you have the 2nd pick?
In what league?
Chrome.
He's not. It's not talking keeper league, is he?
I think I don't know what
He
other
does. He does not have the second pick because that should be.
Just okay. We can move on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's talking
If
about
it's
the
keeper
senior
league, then I can help you with that as well. But we'll see.
And
it
if
also
you want
like
regular,
depends.
just skip back like 10 minutes.
It depends post expansion draft. But if it's the second, you should be taking. Okay. Well, if it's the second overall pick,
It's Bijan Jamar, no?
you take Bijan or Jamar. Whoever was taken first overall. If it's Kyle Pitts though, taken number 1 overall, if you're in one of those leagues where Kyle Pitts is taken number 1 overall, then for me I would take Bijan. I think he's my number 1 overall player, so I'd take Bijan. I'd also ask how many teams are in the league. I think that matters a ton. Because if it's 12 team, 10 team, there's some difference there. If it's 12 team, then I would take Bijan almost guaranteed. But 10 team, you can't really go wrong with Jamar Chase or Bijan. For my fourth guy, I'm taking Justin Jefferson. I'm
Reach.
not worried about the production with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback because he's had every other kind of quarterback you can name, and he's produced at a high level. Sam Darnold, Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Kirk Cousins. That's a fair point, Kirby. I would take him at 4, and I think I'm taking him at 4 more often than I am anyone else because I have more concerns about the other guys, and I'll get into that right now. Saquon, number 5. I already mentioned it earlier. He is statistically almost guaranteed to be worse than Ashton Genty this year. He's also on the Madden cover. That's historically not been good. For context, Christian McCaffrey was on the Madden cover last year. Madden curse is definitely still a thing. Other one is I am concerned about health. He has had bad injuries in the past, of course, and with the amount of touches he got last year, I'm concerned about him from a health perspective. Now, I do want to push back on there are people that talk about the touches with Saquon, and they're concerned of, he's going to lose a bunch of touches last year. Saquon had 15 more touches than Bijan Robinson. And so if Bijan Robinson had 15 more touches last year, had the same amount of touches as Saquon, would people have the same concern? No, clearly not. It's 15 touches already right now, and no one's concerned about the volume with Bijan, and yet we're concerned about the volume with Saquon. So even if he regresses from a touches perspective, I don't think that's a big concern. The only other one is 54% of his rushing touchdowns last year were 20 yards or more. And so you're almost, as good as Saquon is, you're almost guaranteed that that's not going to be the case. Saquon, in fact, had 5 50-plus rushing touchdowns last year, including one in the postseason. So there's some concern that would fall off a little bit, and that's going to hurt you a little bit. I think the biggest thing for Saquon is, and why he's ranked lower than the other running backs, is just Jalen Hurts. Freaking sucks, and I can tell you that from a guy who had Saquon last year. Jalen Hurts scores 20% of his points from the 1-yard line and in with his rushing touchdowns. He's almost guaranteed double-digit rushing touchdowns every single year. And so that's double-digit rushing touchdowns that are taken away from Saquon. Saquon last year would have been even better without Jalen Hurts. Now, of course, Jalen Hurts being there is a part of why he is so good. But with the goal line touches, Saquon would have been historic from a fantasy perspective. And then that gets into the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 range, which is where it gets really, really interesting. For me, at 6, I'm taking CeeDee Lamb. It's not really a debate. He is, I think, just a higher class than the other guys. But then 7 is where you get, and that's where I pick in one of my leagues, and I'm very concerned about this pick. Right now, I would pick.
You're just going to give this away? What if the people in the league listen?
But I think if he's saying if they take Christian McCaffrey higher than 7, they've reached.
Yes.
So
That's fair.
I think I'm going to be in a spot.
then someone falls to him. So perfect.
I would take Christian McCaffrey number 7. And I think you're getting unbelievable value taking him at number 7. And here's why. In the 3 years Christian McCaffrey was the ADP number 1 overall pick, he was running back 54, 38, and 69. In the years where he was not drafted number 1 overall, he was running back 2, running back 2, running back 1, and running back 1. In the years he was running back 1, he was 157 points better than running back 2. And the other year he was running back 1, he was 100 points better than running back 2. And so this is the year that Christian McCaffrey will be great. And given the condition of the 49ers offense as well, I think he's going to be even better. They have no receiver threats outside of Ricky Pearsall. Although Juwan Jennings is expected to play week 1.
They got George Kittle, too.
George Kittle will be excellent, and I'll talk about him as we get there. But Christian McCaffrey will be the 7th overall pick, and by a wide margin for me. And I think it's mainly because of that. I'm not concerned about injuries this year. I think we're on the right side of that coin. The law of averages says it won't happen this year. Says he's guaranteed to be running back 1 or 2. And compared to the other 3 running backs, I think that's a statement. So to get him at 7, I think is unbelievable. Are there concerns there, though?
Yeah, I mean, as someone that had the 1-1 pick last year and took him because you kind of had to take him, and that was one of the years where he finished outside the top 50 in running backs, it's just hard to get spurned like that and buy back in immediately the next year. Realistically, I know you should draft objectively and remove emotion and bias. However, I find that less fun, and so I'm a little miffed at how it turned out last year. I would struggle to take him again.
Any concerns about Christian McCaffrey, Sanders?
Yeah, a ton.
Why so?
I mean, I just don't like. I get the stats, and so that is fair, and there is a chance he is good. But also, the thing that you didn't mention, and every time when he bounced back from injury, is he's now older than he ever has been. Which, that's obvious as how aging works. But when you're a running back and now it's not just he's recovering from his 3rd injury, he's also these things pile up. He's getting older, and so just to assume, well, he's just going to bounce back as number 1 and number 2 after every injury. Eventually you get to the point where you don't bounce back anymore. So that is one of my concerns is his age. He is older than the majority of running backs. Most running backs don't get a second contract. So the fact that he's still going at this point, I mean, it's incredible, and I hope he continues. But those are my concerns: is not just the injury, but the injury combined with the age.
Completely fair, and that's why I'm also concerned about taking him at 7. But I would take him at 7 right now, and I'd even take him as high as 5. I think you still get the value there at 5. Taking him over Saquon, I think there's still value there, because the concerns I still think are there, almost the same. McCaffrey's had a larger injury history, but I still think people are...
Saquon's torn his ACL, hasn't he? And broken his ankle?
Yeah, the people are on the same page of they both have a good chance of getting hurt this year.
Yeah.
For different reasons, but I think both people have that concern. And so taking McCaffrey versus Saquon I don't think is necessarily that big of a debate, I guess I would say. At 8, and I think this is controversial for me, but I'm taking Malik Neighbors. I think Malik Neighbors has a really, really good chance to be wide receiver 1 this year. Last year he was unbelievable, missing 2 games last season as well. He set the rookie reception record, and he's now coming into a season where he's going to have a quarterback that isn't Daniel Jones or Tommy DeVito.
Huge for the program.
And that is massive. The only thing on Malik Neighbors is just that he gets hurt a ton and has been hurt a ton, and they're just little nagging injuries. This offseason, it's been shoulder, toe, and there's another injury he's doing.
Back, I think.
Back as well. Now, what's great about all 3 of those injuries is none of them are soft tissue. None of them are hamstring, which is a big concern for especially receivers. Having to be explosive off the ball, that's not a concern for Malik. I think he's got a great chance to be wide receiver 1 this year. I'd take him as high as 5 as well. I'd take him over CD.
Christian McCaffrey in some cases. But it's controversial because the guy who's ranked higher than him is Puka Nacua, and Puka Nacua last year was on pace for like 1,700 receiving yards. He missed the first essentially 6 weeks of the season after playing in the opener against Detroit. Hurts his knee and then comes back, and he was substantial for Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams in his return. Stafford loves him, loves giving him the ball. My concern right now is I'm really concerned about Matthew Stafford and his health. So I don't know about Puka Nacua without Matthew Stafford because we haven't seen that.
Who's the backup there? Just curious.
If I'm not mistaken, it's not Stetson Bennett. It might still be Mr.
I think it is Stetson Bennett.
Mr.
I know
Wolford.
Bennett's on the roster. I don't know. He's been having a good preseason. One of the Georgia fans was talking to me about that in our TikTok comments a couple days ago.
Yeah, I mean, just that's crazy
Oh,
stuff.
that's right. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Shout out Jimmy
Jimmy
G.
G.
Yeah, good luck with Jimmy G. And then I take Amon-Ra St. Brown at 10. Now, I think there's a odds to reach for Devon Achane, and I've already kind of made the case to reach for Ashton Jeanty twice, but I wouldn't reach for either of them. And that kind of closes out the first round. Now I just want to really talk about like guys I love, guys I hate this year. And for me, I'll start with guys I hate. I hate Breece Hall this year.
Sure.
I think the receiving production is going to be really the only thing that kind of holds him up this year. If you can scroll down and find him, I think he's at like 35, give or take. Nope, he's lower than
falling.
that. He's fallen. He's fallen down to. Oh, he's in the 50s. Oh,
Because
boy.
who's the Braylon Allen's also looked very
There he
good
is,
and very
51,
impressive.
51.
Braylon Allen has looked really good.
So at 51, and do you still hate that value there?
Yeah, I think that's still drafting him
What
a
is
little
that?
bit
Is that
too high.
ADP or is that just ranking?
This is ranking for ESPN. For ADP, I think he's in the mid-50s as well. I'm not high on Justin Fields. Aaron Rodgers loved targeting him a ton last year. Breece Hall got a ton of touches because of Aaron Rodgers in the receiving game. The biggest thing for Breece is that he's just not productive enough from the rushing perspective. Only one game over 100 yards on the ground last year. And then even in the receiving game, he is not necessarily productive there. Only 3 times did he have 50 or more receiving yards last year. His largest scoring game last year was 31, so he has potential to go off for a game. But he also had 5 different instances where he scored less than 7 points last year. And that's with Aaron Rodgers. I expect that to be even potentially worse with Justin Fields this year. So he's on my do not draft list, and he is the highest rated on my do not draft list. He's highlighted in gold and has black bold text. Other guys I don't hate in the running back perspective is James Cook. James Cook I don't like because of the rushing touchdowns last year, in which he was unbelievable from a rushing touchdown perspective. And James Cook is a guy who's on the first page. He's not right now the 13th ranked quarterback. Last year he had 16 rushing touchdowns.
16th running back.
16, the 13th running back. So I think he's in the mid. He's the one in the mid 30s.
There he
if
is.
I'm not mistaken.
33, yep.
16 rushing touchdowns last year. He was absolutely insane. And in those, he scored 16 rushing touchdowns and still scored less points than he's projected to score this year. There was a big contract dispute there. And then I think the biggest thing for him is the other guys are just as productive as him in Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. And so I really think we're in a chance where like James Cook kind of falls off a little bit and it becomes a kind of almost a split backfield, even in an offseason where they paid him. Other players I don't like Garrett Wilson this year. Another Jets player. He's right there at 36 as a rank. The biggest thing for him this year is he plays 5 teams this year in which he will be shadowed and he will be playing 5 of the best corners in the league. He has to play Pat Surtain this year, and he has to play other elite corners as well. And in those games where he is shadowed, which is where the cornerback just follows him wherever he is on the field. He averages 11 or less points a game last year. So I just don't
Very aware about that.
yeah, I don't expect that to be a high production. And drafting him in that mid-30s, it's just I think it's a terrible pick. I'd rather take one of the running backs that's around there, or, and which I expect right now, a ton of the quarterbacks to go off the board really early. You're almost in a spot where you could get someone who is in those mid-20s right now from a ranking, like Devontae Adams could fall that far. Lad McConkey even has a chance to fall that far if you're drafted in the mid-30s. So Devontae Adams is on, or not Devontae. Garrett Wilson's on my do not draft. Also, my do not draft is Terry McLaurin.
Tough.
Sorry, Jack. He's right there at
All good.
35. I do not expect the touchdowns to be there as much this year. He had 13 last year. And then also just like the contract dispute it looks terrible right now. Any updates on that scenario?
He's gonna play.
yeah.
But I mean, he's not had a legit camp, a legit preseason. I also think he's gonna put up numbers. I mean, the touchdown numbers may not be. That's a very fair point, but he's still gonna be clear wide receiver 1 there. So it's just 35 is definitely a little high. But like, if you're asking if I'd take Terry McLaurin or Garrett Wilson, I'm taking Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, for sure.
Just as they're both right there. But there definitely is concerns. I was a lot higher on him before all the contract stuff went down, but it's just not. I feel like chemistry just really does matter in football, and obviously it's not between him and Jaden Daniels. But even if he just like plays a little pissed off or a little pissy at the team, like he may not give full effort all the time, or he get halfway through the season and still not get his money, and then decide, screw this, like I'm gonna like quiet quit or something like that. So I'd
Yeah.
stay away, I guess. Which is sad because I love the guy and everyone in Washington loves him.
Absolutely. Getting into players I love, which sucks that I'm telling this to a group of people that are also going to be in drafts with me. But
We'll plug our ears. You can just talk to the
no,
fans.
please listen. I've also sent this to my other 2 fantasy leagues, and no one's tuning in, so no one's going to find out this great information from a guy who won the league last year. So, yeah, y'all are screwed. Good luck. For steals, for me right now, Chase Brown is the highest one on my list by far. He is bolded and in green, highlighted, which you have no idea what that means, but that means I've seen 5 different things, 5 different stats, 5 different numbers, 5 different projections, put them all in the same category that I love about Chase Brown this year. Right now, he is 23rd in a rank perspective, but he's being drafted at 27 for ESPN, mainly because the quarterbacks that are right there behind him, the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, go above him. Pull him up if you don't mind. He's right there at 23. Just give him a little click. So Chase Brown last year was exceptionally productive, especially once he became the lead back. In the first 3 weeks, he was kind of fighting with Zach Moss for the split carries. But after Zach Moss left, he was averaging 20-plus points per game, and that's not going to change this year. You know, Cincinnati did not make any additions outside of Samaje Perine, bringing him back to the running back room. So Chase Brown is going to be the lead back. And then the Bengals offense, you should be taking any of these guys because their defense is going to be bad again. They're going to be throwing a ton. They're going to be behind a ton. And because of that, Chase Brown, with his receiving numbers, it's just going to put up really, really substantial numbers. I have him in the same class as these other running backs and Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, who are all being drafted in the 20s, and here he is sitting at 27. I think you're getting the same value. I'd reach on him all the way up to 20. I think he's that good this year. He is one of my biggest steals, at least from an ADP perspective. My next one is another running back as well. It's Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard is, I think, a sleeping giant this year because the Carolina rushing game is actually really, really good. It's probably the most talented part of their team. And even though they're going to lose every single game this year and go 0-17, I think Hubbard is going to put up substantial numbers from a fantasy perspective. Last year, he missed the last 2 games of the season, and that kept him from going over what he's projected this year. I think he's going to score in around the 280 mark. And then he also had some bad games last year. Like, there were 2 games last year where he scored 2.5 points or lower. I don't expect that to continue, but that's something that can happen with a guy you're drafting in the 40s. He's right now being drafted at 48 for ESPN, but he will put up productive weeks. Last year he rushed for over 100 yards 4 different times, and he rushed for over 150 yards twice. So Chuba Hubbard has the potential to go out there and win you a week, but I think he's right there in the consistent backs. And him being at 48, I think is just way too low. I draft him around 38. I draft him right there around
Sure.
Amari and Hampton. That's kind of the notion with steals. It's not like these are my best players. These are just players I would draft way higher than they're being drafted right now. For my third one, it's Calvin Ridley, and he'll be on the second page. But Calvin Ridley, I think, is a potential steal this year as well. Right now he's being drafted at 71. I have him ranked as 48th. So a big discrepancy there. The only concern is he is turning 30 this season, and 30-year-old receivers do not perform well in fantasy. But with Cam Ward, I expect him to be really, really productive, especially just from a receptions number, even if the receiving yards aren't there. But in a PPR league, receptions are really all that matters. So for me, Calvin Ridley is one of my biggest steals. If he's there, right there in the 50s, like, take him. I'd take him as high as 45. I'm really that high on him this year. I've seen a lot of things that I love about what he's expected to produce this season. So those are my 3 steals I'd throw out there. You guys got any questions for a fantasy football champion over here?
No, I mean, I like your picks. Calvin Ridley one makes a ton of sense. I don't even know who their wide receiver 2 is going to be. And it probably won't matter.
Right now,
Van
it's
Jefferson,
Van
probably
Jefferson?
Van Jefferson.
Yeah. who apparently had a crazy juke last year, but really, or yesterday, but really
Yeah.
the defender just slipped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I like him. I like Chase Brown a lot.
I
Good-
would
good
say
picks.
I wonder like if Chase Brown gets punished because they get caught in shootouts that you don't see much rushing value from him. He does add that receiving threat, but you don't necessarily want a running back who's like just not going to get running touches.
Yeah, but it's like they get caught in shootouts, but it's not like they end up down 2 or 3 scores. So they're in shootouts where you can still run the ball because if you use up a little clock, it's like, well, we're down 3, we're up 3, we're down 7.
Yeah.
It's a tie game. Like, it's not like they have to like score crazy fast to make up ground a ton of times.
Yeah.
I'd give a good shout out real quick to my my guy who was on my must draft steal, but now I think is unfortunately a little high. And that is
Absolutely.
Bill Krosky Merritt. I was all over him from the jump, and now his ADP has risen like 60 to 70 spots.
Yeah, massively.
To a spot where it now worries me. For a guy that has a little bit of injury history and is older. And Chris Rodriguez has looked good as well. Now, them trading Brian Robinson is a big endorsement of him being good.
If you go click on the plus minus over there, yeah,
I got him.
well, that works too. 48
Plus
spots.
48 spots. He's going to be the best running back in the room, but it's just not a very daunting rushing attack, and I think we'll split a lot of time. I think I'm just saying this because like I love the guy, and I think he's going to be good, but I think a lot of people are going to end up hating on him because he's been like marked as like this steal of the draft, savior of people's teams. Like he will win you leagues, and it's like, all right, he's a rookie running back that was drafted in the 7th round, and that's why I was high on him because I think he's going to exceed those expectations.
Yes.
He's not going to be a top 3 or 4 rookie running back out of this stacked class.
I drafted last week, so I got him off the waiver wire, which was clutch. Didn't have to draft him.
That's great value. Where Lucy drafted him in our league, I don't even know what night that was. Monday night. Or Tuesday night. That was pretty solid value. But also, shout out Lucy for getting me Bijan Robinson at 1.6. You really can't hate that. But I'll end it there.
Man, the Padres are getting diced up over here by Yamamoto.
Well, your boy you did rob a grand slams. That's pretty big.
That was huge. Got out of it allowing only one inning or one run.
I think that's it for the show. Thank you to our fantasy football sage, JP, for the advice. I'm going to go try and win some leagues now, unfortunately.
I mean, whoa. I might push back on that one. I'm 1-0 in leagues against JP currently.
yeah, college football, though.
I'm just saying 1-0. JP
I do think
was-
I think I have a winning record all time against JP, thanks to guys like Sean Tucker.
More than likely, yeah.
Yeah, that's a.
Now, I don't know if I've ever finished
Oh,
ahead of JP in
I
a
forgot
league.
about the couples league. Well, neither of us won that league.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think I've ever.
I finished ahead of him. I'm 2-0.
Oh, nice. I don't. Yeah.
Bang.
Anyway, thanks, JP.
I didn't draft that.
That's
team,
true.
though.
He didn't.
That
draft
is
That's the
fair,
big
but I didn't
difference
draft
there.
my team either.
Yeah, I think that was a wash, though. We'll keep it at 1-0, I guess. And
We'll go soccer rules. We'll say I have 3 points for a win and then 1 point.
well,
For
he
a
has
draw?
a point then.
Okay,
so
so
it-
I'm winning 4-1.
okay. But then, like, if you win the whole thing, do you get more than 3 points?
I don't know.
We
Have
could do a 2-team league.
a 2-team league.
Yeah.
I've tried doing that. It sucks. It is not
It
fun.
sounds like it. That's it for the show. We can wrap it up. Cool.
Yeah.
Our first show under 2 hours and a hot minute. We're squeaking it in. But thanks to all who tuned in. It means a lot as always. And we will see you all Thursday for Week 1 preview of college football. We cannot wait for that. Peace.
See ya.